Hey there, I'm Rex Sikes, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how people make changes and why they don't. Um, you want to make more money, you want to get along better with your spouse or your children, your family, your friends, coworkers. You got big dreams, you want a house, a car, something that you'd like to accomplish, but you're just not going for it, you're just not doing it, you're procrastinating. Maybe you've struggled for some time, or you're in debt and the bills seem to keep mounting. At the end of the month there's just never enough money, and you wish that there was a better way, a more reliable way for you to accomplish what you need to accomplish, but also to live the kind of life you'd like to live on your own terms, where you got more than enough money, you're filled with love and joy and happiness most of the time. Things are working out, your relationships are working for you, and you have enough free time to pursue those things that you really want to pursue, whether it's travel or the arts or sciences, whatever it might be. So, what is it that holds people back? And what I've told people for near on 40 years now is the single thing that holds people back is a little mental packet of electrochemical energy called a thought. And truly, that's what it is. It's estimated we think something like 65,000 thoughts each day. And of those, upwards of 70, 80, 90% are the same thoughts we thought the day before, and the day before that, and the day before that. In fact, we've been thinking the same thoughts and feeling the same feelings habitually for most of our lives. Now, why is that? Because we're born into a world where, to some degree, a blank slate, a clean slate. We've not thought. We don't know language. We may have brought some, DNA baggage with us and some predispositions genetically, but we're not thinkers, and we're exposed to people around us, and in being exposed to the people around us, our eyes, our ears, our senses are open, and we hear not only the words they say, but the tones and what's carried in their voices. So as a child, if you're growing up in an environment that's peaceful and calm and happy, and everybody's got enough, and the life is abundant, and they go, you know what, everything works out for the best, and they feel that inside, well then the experience that's surrounding you and the one you're being brought up in is one of comfort and trust and well-being and abundance and joy and happiness. But sadly, that's not the case for most people. Most people are brought up in divided homes, meaning that sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're not so happy. They're some just what I said a moment ago about debt or problems or not being able to do things, or worried about issues and fights between spouses. And so we're brought up surrounded in an environment where almost all of our thoughts and almost all of our experiences are completely handed to us, and like a sponge, we just absorb them. And we're affected by them. Our brains are affected by them, and our being is affected by these experiences. So, what happens? You learn language, you learn to put your words, your thoughts into words, in the same way that you learn to identify things. You learned that this was a flower, and that was a bee, and that was a bird. But you also learned that some things were good and some things were bad. You made evaluative judgments. You learned that some things were worth being afraid of, that they might happen and that there are consequences, and you learned to worry, or you learned to be sad, or to have regrets. You learned to feel bad, depending on what people told you. You learned notions of worth, of whether you were a good person, a worthy person, a capable person, someone who could do anything you put your mind to, or whether you were a hopeless loser who couldn't do much of anything. So we were conditioned. It's really what we have developed in growing up, our habits. It's been said that a belief is only a thought you think over and over again, and since we think most of the same thoughts from day to day for most of our lives, those things become the beliefs. They become the system from which we operate on, and from where we draw conclusions in the world. It's an interesting thing that it's been said that seeing is believing, but it's truly more the other way around. what you believe determines what you see. Our brain has something called the amygdala, which is a portion of the brain which actually is designed to look for problems, to look for what's wrong in the environment. We have something called the reticular activating system. What essentially the brain does is scan for things that are not wrong, that are wrong, in order to keep you alive, in order to make sure that you survive. And this made perfect sense when you were out in the jungle, as a prehistoric human being, and a saber-toothed tiger were coming, or bears, or lions, or whatever. You needed a way of being alerted to physical danger so you weren't eaten or killed. And so you have a mechanism inside you that pumps chemicals. It causes you to fight, it causes you to flee, or it causes you to freeze. Now, living close to the land and living in the earth, out in the forest and the woods, this made a lot of sense. Some cases, living urban lifestyles may be very similar to that, or living in war-torn countries. But for most of us who live in boxes with artificial lights and drive boxes to one box to the other box and are wage slaves to paychecks, we aren't threatened too often physically with physical danger. Granted, we are sometimes. But what's happened is that our brain interprets emotional threats in the very same way that it did physical threats. It learns to fight or flight or flee from words that other people say about us, bad looks, feelings about what we can or can't accomplish. What's literally happened is the brain has been habituated to less than glorious thoughts and feelings. You see, it starts with a thought, an electrochemical impulse of energy, which leads to a feeling. Now, depending on what feeling it leads to, will become your next thought. So if you think a really nice thought, like I can do anything, and it makes you feel good, and you get that good feeling, then the next thought of, and I'm going to do it, makes perfect sense. It's this loop between the thoughts and the feelings. On the other hand, if you think, boy, I'm a worthless piece of crap, I can't do anything, and it makes you feel bad, then the next thought you think is another bad thought. The thoughts and feelings loop. So it's thoughts, feelings. Feelings determine our actions, meaning depending on how we feel, we do things. And when you think about it, people go, I don't feel like cleaning my room. I don't feel like, doing my chores. I don't feel like talking to my boss. And they don't. Because what's going on here inside their head, inside their mind, isn't supporting the action of doing what they just said they don't feel like. Now I'm going to make a tangential sidestep here and say, for most people, they wait to be motivated. In other words, they wait to feel like they do want to do it. Well, nowhere is it ever written that you have to feel like you need to do anything, that in order to act, you have to feel like it. If you listen to Muhammad Ali and most Olympic athletes, they'll say, I don't feel like training. It's the last thing on the earth I want to do. But every morning I get up and I train because I know in order to get the gold down the road, I have to sacrifice now. I have to do what's necessary now in order to be successful in my future. I don't feel like going out in the cold and the rain. I don't want to run behind a car. I don't want to do 100 sit-ups or push-ups every day. I just don't feel like it. But you know what they've done? They've conditioned themselves to do it in spite of that. They've learned to manage their thoughts in such a way that in spite of the fact that they don't feel like it, they go do it because they know that there's a bigger reward if they will do it. So thoughts lead to feelings, lead to actions, whether you're motivated or not. Your actions determine your results, meaning if you've got a good thought and feel good and you take the right actions, you can get some pretty good positive results. If you have bad thoughts, you have bad feelings, you don't do the right actions, you get crappy results. And this is a cybernetic loop for most people. And what they look for is the evidence to prove them right. Going back to the brain and the issues and the problems that people have, is that this amygdala is always looking for things that are wrong. The reticular activating system is looking for things that are wrong, just so that you can be safe and that you can be comfortable. Think of it like a thermostat. Our brain, our body seeks a homeostasis. It seeks a balance. It seeks the sameness. It seeks comfort. When you set your thermostat to say 70 degrees, if it gets a little warm, then the thermostat kicks off. If it gets a little cold, the thermostat kicks on in order to maintain 70 degrees. What your brain literally does is seek to maintain what it's learned to do all the while you were growing up. The thoughts and the feelings that you have become habits, and what your unconscious or your subconscious mind does is replicate those habits reliably so you don't have to learn to do them all over again. This is an interesting aspect of the brain as well, that the brain streamlines everything. Once you learn it, you don't have to learn it again. You learn how to sit on a chair, your brain generalizes sitting and chairs to all classes of chairs and to stools and to other things that become the class of things that you'd sit on. So you don't have to do it. Once you learn how to open a door, you don't have to constantly learn how to open a door again. Your brain just does it. So what your brain reliably does is habitually travel certain neural pathways that it's learned to do. Just like when you walk through a forest or through a grassy field, if you keep walking in the same route, the same pathway, you will lay down, tracks. You will lay down a path. Well, that's what your brain does. It lays down neural pathways. And these neural pathways are the ones that are most easily and readily traveled. And they're traveled based on what stimuli we experience from the real outside world and or from our own thoughts and our own feelings. So we are creatures of habit, and if our habits are not supportive of us, and if they are habits that make us feel bad most of the time, then that's what we end up getting. If our habits are supportive and makes us feel good and allows us to get the results we want, well, then that's what we get. So it's really, the brain is just a habit-making machine, to use a poor analogy in terms of a machine. And it replicates what it does over and over again reliably. It is your best friend in that regard. You don't forget where you live. You don't forget how to make your dinner. You don't forget how to drive, on a daily basis. But you also don't forget how to be depressed or anxious or sad or happy or loving either. So you do what you've done. And the definition of insanity, oddly enough, is if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And the definition of insanity is to do what you did, but expecting a different result. In other words, people hope that it'll be different, but they keep doing the same things. They keep thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same feelings, taking the same action or lack of actions, and getting the same results, but hope that somehow this time it'll be different. And what I'm here to say is that the cool part about the brain is that it is a learning machine. And it keeps learning. It doesn't necessarily want to, but it does. And so you can recondition yourself just like you can recondition your body. If you're overweight and a couch potato and you want to have more energy and be more fit, you can get out and do what it requires. Diet right, sleep right, exercise the proper amount. You can transform your body and your energy and your health by conditioning yourself a little bit each day. And by continuing to do that until you get the results that you want, and then obviously you would have to maintain it. But the same thing is true about your brain. You can condition yourself for success, for love, for happiness, for abundance, for finding the silver lining in all the dark clouds. Because what I said before is, what we look for, what we believe, is what we actually see. If you get up every morning going, wow, I love my life, this is so incredible, I feel wonderful, how much fun am I going to have today? Your day is categorically different than the person who gets up and goes, oh my God, what on earth, I hate my life, everything sucks. They see different things in the world. And this is part of that reticular activating system. Essentially what it does, what your brain does, is it works off of, to make it simple. If you say something, for example, like, how come I am so stupid? Your brain looks for associations, it looks for memories, it looks for experiences, it looks for everything possible. It's called a transderivational search. Your brain literally goes on a search to answer the question. Now, it will do this even after you've given up, or once you've got an answer for it. For example, Have you ever had this occur where you're trying to remember somebody's name or some piece of information or the title of a movie or a song and you just can't get it? And you go, what is it? What is it? What is it? And the more you try, the further away it is. It's called trip of the tongue phenomenon. It's gone. It's outside. You know it, but you just can't get access to it. So you go, to heck with it, and you give up and you forget. And somewhere down the line you go, oh, that was Bob, when it was gone with the wind. It's because your brain continued to work on it after you stopped working on it. Your brain continues to search. So if you say, how come I'm so stupid? Your brain will say, well, when you were 4 years old, you stuck your head in the toaster. You didn't have the right parents. You had bad schooling. Remember the time you were supposed to care for your little brother and whatever happened. It'll find all the reasons and examples and memories and issues of why you are stupid. If you ask a different question, like, how come I'm so marvelous? Your brain will look for that too. But here's the caveat. It'll do most easily and most readily whatever you're used to doing most often. So if you have a history of always saying, why am I stupid? And you start to say, how come I'm so smart? Or why am I so smart? There's a little bit of an inertia it has to overcome. But you can overcome that inertia. In the same way you can condition your body for health and fitness. You can condition your mind, your brain for health and fitness. You can get it to work for you. You can take all of your non-supportive thinking and feeling habits and transform them into positive, productive, powerful thinking, thoughts, and feelings, so that you can begin to get the right actions that you want and you can begin to get the results that you not only want but that you deserve. So what you do is you begin to, and what I'm going to help you do is begin to understand that, one, what you think is not who you are. Your thoughts are a byproduct of your consciousness. They aren't you. Your experiences aren't you. We identify with these, true. But you're not your thoughts. And you're not your experiences. You are above and beyond all of that. And with some awareness, when you become aware of what you're thinking, when you're thinking it, and if it's less than glorious and not productive, in that moment of awareness, if you can switch it, you pivot, you turn, you actually change the thought from a less than glorious thought to a glorious thought, you are beginning to take control of the mechanism that has either caused you pain or that will be your freedom. You can learn to control your own thinking. You can learn to manage your thoughts and then have the feelings that you want to have more of. You can eliminate fears and phobias and overcome obstacles and limitations of your own thinking and of your own beliefs. And move into being an active proponent of your own well-being. See, a lot of people live passively. They've been conditioned and they think that's the way it's going to be. They wish it were different, but wishing doesn't change it. They continue doing the same thing again and again, hoping it'll be different, and that's the definition of insanity. If you want your life to change, you have to change something in your life. You can't do the same thing again and again and again and expect it to be different. And so you change your thoughts. Once you start with this packet of energy and you change it, you unlock this like atomic force to transform your life. Now, for some people, bang, it's instant, automatic. They're free, they're gone. It's like enlightenment, they're the guru, they don't have any problems anymore. But for most people, that's not the case. For most people, what they need and what they experience is the same thing as I would if I want to be in perfect tip-top health. I have to condition myself. I have to go to the gym. I have to eat the right foods. I have to sleep. I have to do this a little bit every single day, probably for the rest of my life. And that's the good news. It's a conditioning process. You replace a bad, negative, unsupportive habit with good habits that support you and allow you to live the life that you want to live on your terms. It starts in here, but you can transform your world. So, the reticular activating system, if you say, here's the thing about that is, as long as you have negative thoughts, and this is an interesting thing. When you're stressed, when you're negative, your peripheral vision actually narrows down. Your fovea vision, which is your direct vision, becomes more laser-like. But at the same time, your world becomes much more of a tunnel. Well, what does that mean? That means that you will miss all sorts of things that are going on around you because of where you're focused. Now, you had to do this because if you were in the jungle and you heard a noise, and that noise might have been a predator, you had to eliminate all the distractions. You had to narrow your focus to pay attention to what was going on so that you would survive. Well, this mechanism of survival is carried over into our emotional life. So when we feel threatened, or when we have negative thoughts, or we feel bad inside ourselves and beliefs, we have literally shut down our minds. We close out vast amounts of information. And so we miss opportunities that are around us. The reason why positive thinkers and people who take charge of their life seem to have lives that work like magic is because their reticular activating system now is looking for matches to what they believe. They believe, I can do anything, I can make money, the world is an abundant place, I have great relationships, I am so glad to be alive. Now the reticular activating system is searching for these matches. Your brain is literally looking for your past experiences and those out in the real world, the outside world of you, to allow you to enjoy more of. So by your own thoughts, you either take advantage of the world or you lose out on the world. Now, I'm here to tell you, you can change your thoughts, and you do it a little bit each day. So how do you do it? Well, there's lots of different ways to do it. One of the simplest ways is to begin to expose your mind to positive thinking and positive thoughts each and every day. Read motivational material. Expose yourself. Listen to audio tapes or audio programs that are positive in nature, that inspire you and motivate you. It's not about being motivated. This isn't motivational in the sense of doing a motivational workshop and getting all pumped up, because getting all pumped up is just loading your body with adrenaline, which typically means you want to run away. You're prepared to fight, you're prepared to flee. It's not the state you want to be in. What you want is for your brain to be squirting pleasant chemicals of well-being, where you can begin to go, wow, I enjoy life, and I'm able to do exactly what I want. And you know what? Unexpected good always comes my way. Now, I just made a statement, unexpected good always comes my way. Does it? I don't, heck, if I know. But I'll tell you this, if I maintain that thought and that attitude, that I always land on my feet, things always work out, that I always find opportunity around me, that the world is a really wonderful, good place, sure, I will encounter in my life, during my daily activities, some things that aren't that cool. Some things that may be downright horrible. But for the most part, I'm experiencing joy and happiness and bliss and good things, and my brain is working to find those matches in the world. I'm literally creating and attracting those experiences to me. You know, the problem with the law of attraction and The Secret and everything else is it always sounds like people are sitting in a room going, I want more money, I want more money, I am a money machine, I'm a money machine, I'm a money machine. And it's suddenly there's a pile of cash that manifests in their bedroom, and it doesn't work that way. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. How it works is you think, I am a money machine, I feel wealthy and abundant, and then you do the actions that support those feelings and those thoughts, and the thoughts and feelings support those actions, so that you then begin to get the results you want to get in your everyday life. You take literal action steps. Now, as I said, what do? You begin by exposing yourself to positive materials. Read a little bit every day. I say read for a half hour. If you can't do that, read for 15 minutes. If you can't do that, read for 5 minutes. If you can't do that, read a paragraph. If you can't do that, read a single line in a book. You know, look at an infographic, something that inspires you. But first thing in the morning, when you get up in the morning, think something wonderful. Think, I love my life. It's so good to be alive. And then fill yourself with some positive thoughts. It's like this. You eat every day to nourish your body, to keep you going, So you need to eat every day to nourish your mind to keep you going. You know, the kind of food you put in your body makes a difference as to the health you experience. And the same thing is true about the food that you feed your brain or your mind. So you want positive, wonderful nutrition for your brain. That's one thing. I say affirm it. Now, I have for years, and we won't talk about this now, but we talked about why affirmations don't work as well as they could. And I do have a method. It's called directed questions for making that happen. We'll talk more about that another time. But one of the reasons why affirmations haven't worked for most people is because they use affirmations like they recite the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning at school, or they recite a prayer that they got up in a prayer book. Words is not what the subconscious mind or brain responds to. It responds to emotions and feelings. When you were this little baby, before you had language, you responded emotionally to what was going on, to the tones, to the feelings around you. You learned, you know, inside you, you had these visceral experiences, these kinesthetic experiences that were pre-verbal. What most people don't get, and here's a really important point, is any thought you think with a powerful emotion behind it is an affirmation. You're literally programming yourself. If you think, I am so stupid, and you feel bad when you're thinking those thoughts, that's what you're programming. If you think, I am so wonderful, then that's what you're programming. It's not the words, it's the experience, it's the feelings that the brain responds to. The chemicals, the electrochemicals, it's the feelings. So if every day you get up and you go, I am powerful, and you really mean it and you really feel it, then the affirmation works. If you just get up every day and go, I am powerful, I am powerful, I am powerful, I'm powerful, the brain doesn't mean anything to the brain. It has nothing to latch on to. It's meaningless words. If you want to make your affirmations work, because they're already working, you're yelling at your wife or your kids, you're going, I can never find enough money, I am so debt, I am worried, or you're feared that you're not going to be able to make a payment, or you're afraid to talk to your boss or your spouse. Those are the feelings that are affirming your experience. Those are what are keeping you locked in place, doing those habitual things that you've been doing from the conditioning from birth on. See, from birth to year 7, you're pretty much just this open slate. You've learned what to think about people. You've learned what to think about family. You've learned what to think about the world, whether it's friendly or not friendly. You learned what to think about money, whether there's enough or not enough. You learned to think about what you are and who you are and your place in it, whether you're deserving and kind and loving, or whether you're not so good or not so smart. That's all that conditioning. And there are feelings attached to each of those. Transform your thoughts, transform your feelings. So, read, fill your mind with the positive stuff, and affirm what you want. Whenever you hear yourself say something out loud to yourself or inside your head or to another person, stop. Just stop, take a deep breath, say, you know, in my past, this is what I would have said. I would have said, I can't do this right now, or I don't have enough money, or I'm afraid that that's what I would have said. What I say now is this. I can do it. I have enough money. I will find money. If there's a way, I will find it. I will always find or create a way. I can correct and I can continue. Put a guard before your lips and only speak to heal, bless, and prosper. Say what it is you want, not what you don't want. Affirm what you do want. Stop affirming what you don't want. Because that's what we've been doing all our lives. We've been affirming the very things we wish to exclude, to eliminate, to get rid of. I say, I don't know why this always happens to me. I don't know why I'm... It's keeping it alive. And you don't want to keep it alive. You want to change. You want to transform. And you can. Affirm. Visualize. Guess what? You're always visualizing anyway, whether you know it or not. You're always making mental pictures, whether you know it or not. So what are those pictures you're making? You might want to take a look at that. one of the most powerful things is to assume what you want as if you already have it, and to feel the feelings that you're already there. So let's pretend for a second that you want a new house. You want riches. You want a new house. So you can say, I want a new house. I want a new house. I want a new house. I'm going to get a new house. I'm going to get a new house. I'm going to get a new house. Fine. But the powerful way to do this is imagine you already have the new house. What does that feel like? When you walk into this new house and you're there in the kitchen, what does it look like? How does it make you feel? When you're in the family room or the living room, when you go into the bedrooms and the bathrooms, when you tour the grounds, how do you feel being the new proud owner of this house? That's what your brain needs to get. I want this feeling. How do I get this feeling? By having a new house. I feel marvelous. Not, oh God, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it, or I work so hard, I'm never going to be able to make men's meat. That's the old you. The new you is you already have what you want. How does it feel? People say, I want to be confident. Imagine that you are confident, and stand like you're confident, and look like you're confident, and hear yourself go, yes, I can do anything. And imagine what it's like to already have the confidence. And visualize that. See yourself going through the world, acting and behaving the way that you do as you are right in this moment, now that you have this. You imagine the good that you want in the future as already now. And affirm that. Affirm those feelings. Live those feelings. When you get a negative feeling, do this. We'll close up here soon and we'll take questions, but if you get a negative feeling, understand that the negative feeling is a signal. It's kind of like if you sprained your ankle and you get up and you got out of bed and you jumped on the floor and it hurt. It's a signal for you to, hey, take it easy, slow down, don't, pamper this for a bit, let it heal. When you get a negative feeling, typically what it's telling you is this: whoa, you're outside your comfort zone. You're facing something that might be frightening. Yet anytime you have a goal, anytime you have an endeavor that you've never done before, go, I made $10 last year, this year I want to make 20, and you decide you're going to do that, it's scary. Guess what comes up? It comes up those beliefs and those limitations and those negative thoughts and those negative feelings. I can't do this because that's that homeostasis. The thermostat is trying to keep it at 70 degrees. It's trying to keep you the same. It's trying to keep you alive. It's a conditioning that's coming back up. And you go, whoa, this is bothering me. It's a signal that something's just amiss. Examine it. It may be telling you what you need to know. It's not bad, in other words. It's not something to feel defeated about. It's information. What's going on right now? What am I thinking that is preventing me from moving forward? Why am I stopping myself? How can I move forward? What is it that I need to pay attention to? You can address yourself. Because what's coming up are these limiting beliefs. Beliefs are really, like I said, it's thoughts you think over and over again. They tend to cluster like a bunch of grapes. They're all in this big bunch of things, and so you pick one off, you still got all this other cluster here. So you're going to encounter them. That's just part of it. As you go through life, when you encounter new experiences, but guess that it gets easier and easier and easier to move through life more easily and more readily, more quickly, more positively, more productively, more richly, with a whole lot more fun. Because as you condition yourself, the more you do, the more you can do. It's like if you do one push-up today, and you do another push-up tomorrow, and then the next day you do 2 push-ups, and the next day you do 3 push-ups, pretty soon you can do more push-ups, because the more you do, the more you can do. So in the same way as you condition your mind to go for success, as you condition yourself to feel good about what you're doing, when anything comes up that you encounter that is less than glorious or less than productive, it's a sign that maybe you're out of alignment somewhere and you need to examine what's going on. It's not bad. It's like when you're sick and you got a cold, it's your body's way of saying, okay, slow down, rest, and it heals. It heals itself. It'll heal itself in its own time. Sometimes you take, some, I would prefer organic, natural things, but some people take medicine. Um, but the body will heal itself in time. So the same thing is true. If you face, whenever you're making a change, say, I'm going to lose weight, and then you don't. You find yourself wanting to eat donuts instead of eating healthy. What's going on? It's the old programming that's rearing its head. And you can overcome that. Now, again, we won't have time to go into all this, but one of the things that you can do is if anything ever seems overwhelming or too large, break it down into bit by bit. It's like the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Just chunk it down. Same thing with the thoughts. You may need to focus your thought on a particular thing. I will eat healthy. I'm going to eat healthy food. And stick to it. I will say this, that where most people fall short, why the secret doesn't work, is they don't do it long enough in order to make it a habit. They try it, they give it a half-assed attempt, maybe they jump right in and they try it and they really, really do commit to it. But they don't do it long enough. The way you build a habit is to repeat correctly whatever it is you want to do for a long enough duration of time until it becomes second nature. Or as some people would say, first nature. Until it becomes an unconscious habit. Until those neural pathways are laid down. Think of it this way. You know, if you've ever moved, or in the old days when there were dial phones and you used to know phone numbers in your head and you could dial your phone, I think it's a little bit different today. So let's try the address thing. You live in a house on a particular street and you now moved. Have you ever found yourself going back to the old house? You leave work or school and you end up driving back to the old address. Why is that? Well, that's because that's what your brain knows. But eventually what you do is when you drive to the old address, you stop, you turn, you go, I don't want to go there, I want to go here. And you stop and you turn and you go to the new house. Eventually the brain learns not the old address, go to the new address. Not the old address, go to the new address. You never forget necessarily where the old address is. It's just overlaid with a new one. So that when you get up and you go, that's where you head for. This is what we're talking about building into you. Thoughts and feelings and actions that replace the old thoughts and feelings and actions. So that you can transform yourselves and get exactly what you want. Make your life the way you want it and live life on your terms. Henry Ford said something very, very, very important. And I think it's critical for you to not only understand but to apply. And he said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That's why you want to learn to manage your thoughts. If a person thinks I'm not good enough, the brain goes, yeah, you know what, you are right. If you go, I am good enough, you know what, your brain goes, yeah, you know what, you are right. Because the brain only does one thing. It only says yes. It is your best friend in that regard. It will support you, even in doing stupid things. Otherwise, why would you smoke? Why would you bite your fingernails when you don't want to? Why would you eat foods that aren't good for you? Because that's what you've learned to do. And your brain will keep you doing it because that's what it thinks you are supposed to be doing. Until you teach it to do something more supportive on your behalf. It'll continue. And it'll put up a fight during the changing. So you're not going to feel like it. You're going to come up with limiting beliefs. You're going to come up with all sorts of excuses and all sorts of... That's why you fill your mind every day with positive material. So that you feel inspired and motivated. You feel like you want to. You learn. You're growing. You're imbibing it. You should be around positive people whenever you can. People who inspire and encourage. People who are making their lives the way they want them to be. Instead of bummer, negative, low energy people. Be around high energy people. Be around people who are happy and positive and making their lives what they want to be. Make your affirmations each day and throughout the day. Do your visualizations where you feel it. And throughout the day, just take moments to stop and feel grateful. And go, wow, you know what? I am blessed right now. One of the most important lessons I ever had was one day I was about 25 years old. I was doing a meditation. I was lying down and it occurred to me that I'd walked for 25 years, and I never ever thought to thank my feet. My feet had carried me for 25 years. My body had worked for 25 years. My toes, everything. I mean, I've banged them up, I've broken them, I've twisted them, I've hurt my arm, my feet, my legs multiple times, and yet I could walk, I could travel the world. And it struck me as so odd that in all the years I hadn't even just stopped to consider how marvelous this was. I mean, there are people who can't walk, who don't have legs, who do not have feet. I started to thank my feet, my toes, the joints, the cartilage, the muscles, the tissues I went through. I thanked my entire body. I thanked all the different systems. There's the respiratory system, the circulatory system. There's the elimination system, digestive system. There's all these different systems in the body, lymphatic system. I went and just said, thank you. I felt marvelous. I began to realize what an incredible, unbelievable system of complex things all going on simultaneously. I can be digesting my food, thinking thoughts, driving a car. I mean, there's so many things that we do simultaneously that just we take for granted. Find moments to appreciate the little things in life as well as the big things. Be grateful. When you live with gratitude, it truly transforms your life. It makes an incredible difference. Why? One, well, it's positive and it's supportive. It makes you feel good. And it keeps training your brain to go, I am thankful for this. I am thankful for that. I am blessed by this. Be blessed by your challenges. Be blessed by your problems, and they won't be problems anymore. They'll be learning experiences. There'll be opportunities for you to overcome and evolve and transform. You see, it's only what you consider it. If you consider it an issue, it's an issue. If you consider it a blessing, it's a blessing. Speak to heal, bless, and prosper only. If you think you can and you think you can't, you are right. Manage your thoughts. The best way to do it is the ways I've just described. There's so much more. This is a really powerful beginning. A little bit every day. Before you go to bed at night, while you're drifting off to sleep, list 25 things you're grateful for. People, places, things, abilities, talents, insights, memories. Make it a daily habit. There. You brush your teeth, hopefully. You shower once in a while, hopefully. You eat at least a couple times a day, most likely. You drink water. And occasionally you move. Go to work, you drive. They're all habits. Start productive habits. You do a little thing each day that gets you closer to where you want to be, you'll be there sooner than you could ever imagine. If you made 1% of change a day in a year, that'd be 365% change you will have made. You can do this. And I'll be right there with you. Any questions?